Before the smoke, before the silence, there was brilliance. Greenwood District, a city within a city, rose from the red clay of Oklahoma as proof that freedom's promise could be built by black hands. Doctors opened clinics, tailors stitched Sunday suits. Newspapers carried stories of progress. The air smelled of bread, oil, and ambition. They called it Black Wall Street, not for imitation but for independence. A dream fueled by ownership, education, and the audacity to thrive. By 1921, Greenwood stretched more than 35 blocks, lined with barber shops, cafes, jewelers, hotels, and theaters. Men and women who once labored for others now signed paychecks themselves. O.W. Gurley, John and Lula Williams, Dr. A.C. Jackson, names carved into Tulsa's black prosperity. Children walked to school past banks their parents founded. The Dreamland Theater lit the night like a promise. This was not luck, it was strategy, community co-ops, shared credit, and a belief that black excellence could thrive on its own terms. Greenwood's success challenged every stereotype of its time. The district's money circulated within the community. A dollar passed through dozens of black-owned businesses before leaving. Educators taught accounting and trade skills. Church leaders preached wealth as a form of self-defense. Booker T. Washington himself visited and called it Negro Wall Street of America. To many, it was proof that freedom could be earned twice, once by law and again by enterprise. Sundays were for faith and fellowship. The streets filled with choirs, children, and smiles that carried a century of hope. At night, jazz spilled from the Stratford Hotel lounge while elders spoke of progress. Community meant everything. Mutual aid societies, women's clubs, and newspapers like the Tulsa Star that documented the rise. But beyond those lights, resentment grew in white Tulsa, a jealousy that watched from across the tracks, counting black success as a threat instead of a triumph. In May 1921, a single incident lit the fuse. A young black shoeshiner named Dick Rowland was accused of assaulting a white elevator operator, a charge never proven. Local papers fueled the flames with headlines that dripped with rage. When armed black men arrived to protect Rowland from a lynch mob, a shot was fired. Chaos erupted. By nightfall, Tulsa was a powder keg. The city that stood as a beacon of black prosperity was about to face the unthinkable. As midnight fell on May 31st, 1921, white mobs marched on Greenwood. Gunfire split the air. Homes were set ablaze. Planes, yes, private aircraft, dropped fire and bullets from above. By dawn, smoke blotted out the sun. Families fled with nothing but faith and their children in their arms. The wealth of a generation, stores, libraries, dreams, turned to ash. The sound of progress was swallowed by flames and screams. 35 blocks reduced to ruin in less than 24 hours. The Red Cross called it the worst civil disturbance in American history. 300 black men, women, and children were believed dead. 6,000 were rounded up into detention camps. Photographers snapped souvenir postcards of the wreckage while officials denied it happened. Greenwood was not a riot. It was a massacre, an erasure of achievement so complete that decades of silence followed as its survivors were forced to start again. In the aftermath, the world looked away. Insurance companies refused to pay claims. City leaders blocked reconstruction. Yet, amid the ashes, survivors organized. Elders who had lost everything still taught children to read by candlelight. Brick by brick, they rebuilt. No funding. No apologies. Only determination. Because to the people of Greenwood, prosperity was not just money. It was memory, identity, and the right to stand on their own soil. By the mid-1930s, A new Greenwood stood where the old one had burned. Shops reopened. Jazz clubs returned. The community reclaimed its streets through sheer will. Though the massacre remained unspoken in schools and news, its survivors refused to be erased. They passed down stories in whispers, a living archive of grief and grit. Black Wall Street was reborn not from charity, but from the unyielding belief that what was built once could rise again. Decades later, activists and historians began to uncover what was buried. The civil rights era rekindled questions about justice and repair. Old photographs were pulled from attics. Eyewitnesses spoke. Congressional hearings were held. For the first time, America had to reckon with the truth of Tulsa, a truth that challenged the myth of equal opportunity. Out of that reckoning emerged a new movement for memory, for restoration, for dignity. Today, the Greenwood Cultural Center and Tulsa Race Massacre Memorial stand as sacred ground. Visitors walk quietly past names etched in stone. Children learn what their grandparents were never taught. This is not just a history of destruction, it is a lesson in resilience, a call to remember. Each candle lit in Tulsa burns for those whose dreams once lit a city without permission. A century later, the spirit of Greenwood lives again. From tech startups to bookstores and cafes, a new generation builds with the same determination. They speak the names of their ancestors and design futures their ancestors were denied. Black Wall Street is no longer just a place, it's a blueprint for collective power, proof that legacy cannot be burned away. From the ashes of injustice grew the roots of resilience. Greenwood taught the world that freedom is not a gift given, it's a dream rebuilt again and again. Every brick, every business, every beat of black enterprise echoes that truth. Because to remember is to rebuild. To rebuild is to rise. This has been Roots Renaissance. See you in the next chapter.